Great. So, welcome to today's talk on Between Scylla and Charybdis Toward Definite Optimism in AI Safety. So, for those of you who missed the first talk, Definite Optimism is what this conference is intended to be about. So, like, despite all these difficult things which we often face in AI safety, like existential crisis, existential risks, everything, we want to be optimistic about it. But in a way that we say, like, optimistic, we can get somewhere. We will solve the problem. Not this indefinite optimism, which means like, oh, it will work out all by itself, as it's often done by the AI labs, at least if you believe Alexander. So this is kind of the topic of this talk. It kept me busy for quite some time, and now I will share with you some of my insights and also invite you to think for yourself how to become more optimistic about these things. Let me also say thank you to the organizers who organized this whole ILIAD conference. I don't see anyone. You are here.
I'm just helping out. I'm not organizing.
Okay. Then thank you to you as well to make the techniques work, and I must say also a big thank you to my mother because she prevented my father from calling me ODYSSEY, which would be very good for this conference, but apart from that I would have suffered probably quite a lot. But I would still take the viewpoint of Odysseus for this talk. So the story of Scylla and Charybdis is the following. There is a passage in the ocean where Odysseus has to pass. On one side there is a big fearful monster with a lot of heads. It's a snaky thing which kills everyone who comes too close to it. And an arrow away, like shooting with an arrow with a bow away from there, is a different monster called Charybdis, which is at the bottom of the ocean and soaks in so much water that if you get too close to Charybdis, it sinks you the ship into the ocean and everyone dies. And the difficult part is for everyone who has to pass through that small route has to be very finicky about not getting too close to one or the other. Both of them mean death. And Odysseus has to pass twice along this way, and I see a certain parallelism to what we are doing here in AI alignment. Like if you ask people about how do you approach AI alignment, where do we want to go, often the answer is like, okay, let's stay away from the dangerous. But what is if we are in a situation where we cannot stay away from all dangers at the same time? Might be. So another approach is to say, okay, following the ILIAD, I know where I want to get, which for Odysseus and his crew meant I want to get home. So let's find a way to twiggle around to get home. And this painting here, now it's the first imagination exercise. It's from my favorite painter, William Turner, who depicted Scylla and Charybdis. So we have here a nice sun. He is the boat of Odysseus. And now it's your task to see here also Scylla and Charybdis, which is very difficult. There's no answer, I just let you watch this beautiful picture for a moment. So Charybdis, I said, is at the bottom of the ocean. It draws in the water 3 times a day. So you can imagine that whatever is here will, once the ship passes, become a soaking water. So it's very dangerous and difficult. And this woman here is Scylla, because the story of Scylla is that she had a lover, who is depicted here, a mythical, how do you say, creature. And this is a goddess called Kreer, who was jealous, so she poisoned the water here, and this lovely woman became a monster. So we can imagine what looks like here very peaceful, super nice and peaceful. Once the ship is coming here, will turn into a nightmare for the crew. But it takes some imagination to see that, and in some sense it's also similar to what we have in the AI alignment. At the moment, they're looking nice, no, not too dangerous. Some starts to change now, but let's say in 2 years, this whole thing might be very different. So, I already said, staying away from dangers is not necessarily aligning AI. Another open question is always, okay, we always say align AI to human values. Which human values? I mean, I assume you have completely different one than I have. We have probably more similarities than I would have with someone else, but still, there's a wide range. And, as I said, definite optimism is perhaps it's certainly a healthier way than just being pessimistic. At least for myself. So, where do we want to go? That was where I started with. In order to pass all the dangers, we perhaps want to know where to go. And I admit, I did my own ODYSSEY. At some point, I bought a train ticket for all of Europe. And for 1.5 months, I was traveling across Europe, which my colleagues know as the infinite vacation, because I was away for 1.5 months. And I ended up in all of Europe. For some parts my cousins joined, for other parts my siblings joined, best friends joined. So it was really Odyssey. I did not know in the morning where I would end up in the evening. And some of the questions were like, what do I have, perhaps, what an AGI or SGI does not have, like artificial general intelligence or super intelligence? It's a reasonable question to ask. Because that might help me to figure out to what I want to align to. Perhaps the AGI might realize that I have something what the AGI can never have. So it wants to maintain me as a person, as a human being, in order to get access to that in a positive way. You could also ask, okay, what can I do better than AGI, SGI? Rather unconventional reasoning, but with a lot of imagination you can come up with perhaps something. And also, okay, let's talk about feelings. You could also ask, okay, what does feel right? I mean, let's say I give you a goal where I want to align AI with. There will be probably a million good reasons why this is a bad goal, but it will be probably a better goal if I say, okay, at least I feel it right. It's right. It will be probably better than to say, like, I want to stay away from that. Well, you are on the way. And at this stage, I really think about it as making up whatever you like. Like, it does not have to be rational, it does not have to be heavily evidence-based, you can make up whatever you like. This is probably a physicist approach to making up things and then figure out is this thing useful. So, we will do that all together in the next step. That's why you have a piece and a paper and a pencil to just write up things. You can really make up things, whatever you like. And to give you some input, like how this might look like what satisfies all these three things, one answer would be, for example, object like a soul. You are laughing, but I mean, many people believe that they have a soul, which is not given to them by themselves, but from some other entity or like something like God. Very complicated object, but you can say, I have that. And because I received it from God, I don't say that you should believe that also, I'm saying that this is just a possible answer, therefore the AGI cannot have it or not take it from you. Could be a valid answer. I don't say that it is, but this might be something. So I made up this answer. That was the first part of the journey. Now then the question is, what does it mean in real life? Because I can make up, I mean also made up many other things. I mean you have to have somewhere a list where I made up all the things and really wrote it down. I mean you have to imagine you're sitting in a train and you're like, okay, what do I do? So it's a very creative process. You're looking out of the window all the time. So I will come back to that, what it means in practice, like what does change afterward. But I'd like to invite you to now come up with some stuff yourself. Use your imagination. Here again, the questions. To write something up, or you can also add, of course, questions. That would be something for you, specific in person, that is cannot be taken away, or in which you are just better. And perhaps also an answer would be like, to be stupid is also better. It can be stupider than LGI. I give you now 5 minutes for that.
Things like how performing the task, maybe how elevated it is, maybe how easy it is to use and so on. And at least next book that it is, I think maybe I'm sure you say, oh, it's not a problem. But I think nobody else understands but yeah, so I would say that really when I'm collecting a model, one algorithm for reasoning more generally. So there's my decision is not just the workspace. It's like anything you can do.
No, don't do that. There are just right answers at this stage. I thought exactly.
I think that's the same thing with model selection. Like you want to select a model that gives you peace of mind that will actually work. It's kind of an obvious statement, but I think there's various different ways that you can drive it. So, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, there's really to that. I think that it's going to be nice to have a Bayesian interpretation for.
You can also get inspiration from there.
Lower down. Another way is like saying that you're not replicable, right? So just good arguments making it comfortable, that it's throwing peace of mind. Because I don't want someone to pull money out of me. So now I want a Bayesian interpretation for whatever my algorithm happens to be. Also, like having one trick that works for everything, all that feels more elegant and that can keep peace of mind. So I want a Bayesian interpretation, right? Yeah, people will flip it here, right? I think that's true. Like, I thought it was in 3 years, right? You know,
2 minutes?
That's what you want. What you're doing, you're choosing your theory of rationality. You're trying to, yeah, peace of mind. So, this is a food. And, okay. So ideally, the Bayesian is kind of hesitant to fall out. And I actually think that, so I've argued, I haven't been super convinced on arguments yet, but I've said the reasonable theorem from where it's sort of like, if you're expecting people to maximize their long amount of deduction, you're going to kind of a lower bound. So there's like, there's a lower bound, you're going to be sort of pessimistic because I want you to go something that's is feasible, there's some chance that you're building something that's maximized for the environment. And this is really common after fun comment or event that's not previously seen first. Sorry, not a very close area, but it's true. So, and I think when you see something that's never seen before, that also sort of defines your belief that you have in your site.
Lovely. We can continue. We will talk about later what you brought up. Just want to go first through the process and then we can share. So once you made up something, the next question is to ask, okay, let's say I truly believe whatever I made up. What does it mean? How can I know? You have a direction where to go. I mean, you have now something you are better in than the AGI, you can construct an AGI that goes in the right direction. You have, say, the North Pole. You don't know it concretely what it is, but at least you have a direction. So what could mean to be closer to that direction? Without explicitly knowing what it is. I admit this is a very artist point of view. Often you have some idea, vision, and then you start drawing and painting. This is all about abstract art. On the way to get, while you're drawing, you get in there. So I started with, okay, we have I have a soul, and you have also one. So let it shine. Think about it like a mirror. There's some sort of light pointing on there, and you're mirroring the light. And the mirror can be dusty. So let's clean the mirror and let's shine. And some things which indicate that your mirror is kind of clean is that you smile more. And also people smile back at you. And this sounds a little bit stupid, but you can actually observe that. Well, once I started to do that, I think about, okay, how can I clean up my So, really this is a very literal picture. I mean, I'm using now a lot of pictures, but in practice this means like, okay, let's be, for example, calm, don't get too afraid from AGI, all these things. People start smiling back to you. And at some point, just to illustrate how much that was, I'm doing calisthenics, like I'm doing outdoor gym. There was one day, it was raining like crazy. I was standing as the only person there at the gym, outdoor gym. I was completely wet. I was staring at the pull-up bar, and the dude came to me and said, like, "You are so smiling. You're making everyone around you happy." If I sit in the metro, it often happened that we were sitting opposite each other and we started both laughing, like laughing out loud. It happens very often that I see like small children in the, how do you say, in the trolley. They're crying.
Stroller.
Stroller, thank you. I'm sitting opposite of them and they suddenly, the eyes meet each other and they stop crying and start smiling. It even happens that the metro passes by and you get something like that out of the window, and from young to old it often happened that I was sitting there in the coffee and people just came to me and started chatting with me. I was like, we never met in our life. And this became more and more and more, the cleaner it was, so to say. It was just an observation. I don't say that this is something empirical. But it's a nice observation. Also a lot of random conversations which came out of there. And by random conversations we talk a lot about AI alignment, for example. I mean, when was the last time you talked with a random person in the metro or wherever you are about AI alignment? So it is, even though not a physical empirical metric, there was a change going on. A change which, for me at least, pointed in the right direction. And for example, like, to show you, when I defended my PhD thesis, the room was full. People were standing in the corridor. None of them were EA people or any AI alignment folks. They were just people I met throughout the year or 2 years, more or less everywhere, in the street, in the metro, who were just interested in AI alignment. Because they saw also there's some person who can speak about it in a positive way. A lot of people are afraid of AI. But not so many people are positive and are still happy about that. Like, can balance the two. So this was for me kind of like an indication that we are going in the right direction, or I'm going in the right direction. While doing, of course, all these serious research. I mean, I'm working at Timeus, I'm doing AI alignment research from a very theoretical point of view, so this doesn't mean that it replaces it. It was something which was happening alongside. Now I gave you a few examples here, and I ask you again now to think about, okay, you have written, everyone has written something up. Completely arbitrary, more or less, probably. Is there something you would indicate that you are going toward that thing? It's a very difficult thing, but how would you notice that whatever you wrote up, you are close to it?
Yeah, and one more thing. So, you can have a model approach which is motivated in a way.
I see that seems to be very more difficult. I mean, this is really the more difficult part, I admit. But you could imagine like how it would feel like if that's really true.
Actually, I think this is in a way, we have talked about this later,
I can give you again 5 minutes. And then we are nearly over and can discuss.
So the problem is that the process is smaller on the time period, but itself is an exponential time off. There's this kind of gap here where every rule is separate that from. There's a lot of other things that do happen. So why do that? Yeah. But the problem is exactly in the reverse of this part. So, I'm going to do yeah, I think there's one that you broke approximately computational experience and all that don't actually give you what you need. Don't actually
Salt. Very good, Avi. I knew that Stanford people are the best. After two. So I'm seeing most people have put away their sheet already. So let us quickly then continue. So like, I know this is very difficult and this takes a lot of time and inspiration. So here I just wrote down some of the inspirations like I took. I talked a lot to strangers, so you have to imagine I was taking one day in London to just walk around in the most crowded areas and ask random people on what's on their mind and made them write down, ask them to write down their answer in a booklet. I collected more than hundreds of these answers. I mean, this was a very eye-opening experiment, like what people are thinking about in the various situations. I like to go to art museums, for example, here in San Francisco, the Museum of Modern Art, great source of inspiration. This is a book. It's a very long book, very, very long book. It's one of the French classics. It got me a lot of ideas to ask people about. And we do this. Go around, try stuff. This is my methods, what I do to get ideas and to test stuff. So I invite you to do that as well. And now to come back to the original thing, why do I do that? So this guy here is Argos. According to the ILIAD, Odyssey reached home, and the only one who recognized him at that moment was his dog, which was called Argos. So my family, we had a huge fight about how to name this beautiful dog. At some point my brother came up with the name Argos, and we were like, yes, let's do that. And the same way, when I was going around for 1.5 months in the trains, I arrived back and this beautiful dog was waiting there for me, playing with his, how do you call this, tail, and greeted me with great arms. And that was really a moment where I started, okay, I don't know to what we can align, we should align AI to. But I kind of know how it will feel like. I kind of know in which direction I want to go. And the nice thing is we have so many people, we have all different attitudes towards that question. And kind of we want to align AI to all of them. So from my humble perspective, the first step is to figure out what do I want it align to. And then we'll figure it out together. And the effective change that does to me is when I wake up in the morning and I read the messages of Jesse, just tell me okay, we want to do this experiment, this experiment, this experiment. In fact, these experiments are not there for their own, but they will lead me closer to whatever I want to achieve. So it has from my opinion, definite optimism by definition. And that's why I encourage you to think about that question and also play around with it. It's a fun experience. So thank you very much for your attention. And now I'm happy also to chat with you. You can present whatever you wrote up. I do not force it because some people might be uncomfortable with sharing whatever they thought, but I'm happy to discuss that as well. Thank you. You can also do it in private. I mean, you don't have to, but I really encourage you to test out and it makes also fun. One gets used to it. Gets you out of your comfort zone. You are smiling, that's like that.
One of the things I wrote down that for her three question is
You mean he's free?
yes.
Yes.
And then to answer the question of what means you're getting closer, I wrote down optimism.
Optimism. That's a good idea. And how do you measure optimism? Do you have an answer that? Like, how do you measure if you are optimistic or not?
Well, the empirical answer is that you make a survey and you randomly sample a bunch of people to ask whether you're optimistic or not, just based on vibes on a scale of 0 to 10, and you can quantify it.
True, that's a very mathematical one. And how do you notice if you are optimistic about something?
How do you measure optimism? I mean,
Or like, how do you notice, oh, I'm not optimistic about that?
like I feel positive that you're going in the right direction.
No, for example. For example. I mean, this is a good answer.
But I feel like thinking about more closely, usually if I do feel optimistic about something, then it's usually predicated on the fact that this has worked before. So I'm doing a small inquiries. I have to have a prior, but if I don't have a prior, it's hard for me to be optimistic about something.
But you could try to extend that prior, right?
Yes.
By trying a lot of things.
Yes.
Like, I mean, it's very difficult. I mean, you have to imagine, I was a rather shy person. To talk to 100 people in London street where everyone told me you cannot talk to random people in London. It doesn't work. And I was like, probably they are right. And I was like, I was like, okay, men will probably answer me far more than women. Quite the opposite was the case. Like, there were even women who stopped on the street and turned around to like, what did you ask me? I want to answer the question. So it was completely opposite what I assumed. And this is like how I, for example, extended my pride in that sense. It was completely unexpected. But it takes you, of course, courage to stop someone and say like, stop.
Yeah.
And at some point I even interrupt conversations. Turns out many conversations are apparently boring.
For the what are you better than? This is kind of like this might be a dumb comparison, but are you familiar with the movie Good Will Hunting?
No.
It has math. So there's that question made me think of a speech in that movie. It's like Robin Williams' character is like a mentor and he's talking like this math prodigy essentially. Who's like more or less like a genius.